Zoom in the enterprise version is allowing us within that to stream live on YouTube. Okay. Let's see here. And it's working perfectly. Okay. So what I have in store for today is talk about the rest of the semester. We really don't have that many more weeks left. Next week, a week from today, is what, Zach? Do you know what's happening a week from today on the 17th?
The test.
The test, and it's in person. So we have to, I'm going to give you a study guide for that, Zach, okay? So we'll do a study guide, we'll do a review for that. We also will discuss other areas. On the 24th of November, that's Thanksgiving, and they've allowed that to be Thanksgiving week, but those that have Monday classes, they've been told that they're required to do the 24th online. We have no problem with that, but I don't know what you're doing with your other Monday classes. We'll do that. And on December, that week, we'll meet just on the 24th, and that December 1st, you will be presenting your project. So what we'll have to do as well, on the after the exam, we'll go over of how your presentation should be. But right now I want to focus in on mostly on your study guide. Okay? And then if you have any questions, and Lily, if you can I just don't see you well. Thanks. We can proceed. So let me share my screen. And you should be seeing some of the class here. And let me make this full screen so we can see everything that we need to do. So let's go to the what's due section. And the what's due section, let me turn off my edit mode so I can see the same thing as you do. So today is the 10th. We had in the 5th, you should have been doing your phone voice AI agent and your assignment, your readings for chapter 10. And then also here's additional readings on machine learning, on subfields of AI, and generative AI. The last chapter we have is on business analytics, which is chapter 12. You have your audit assignment, the final project part, which is due on Wednesday. And then you have your complete assignments. Now, I don't have Daniel on what's due about the study guide.
I'll add that.
So we need that for assignment 10. I would put it on assignment 10 on how to get the study guide there. So if you go to the audit assignment sections here, you'll see here you have for Wednesday, this is your final project where you need to do your updates, creating your social media, your notebook LM, also adding VAPI, the AI agent, choosing one of the phone numbers, and it's chatbot for VAPI. And then if you go to PowerPoint and documents, you will see then, everybody see this? So Sophia, when you go to PowerPoint documents, do you see what I'm seeing? Sophia?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so here's the review guide. Again, it will take place November 17th. It'll be in person. Again, it's closed note, closed book, just you and respondus. And make sure, again, you know what your account password is. And when you have to go in, a lot of times it's not saved. If it's actually saved in cache or in other places on your computer, you need your picture ID, just like you did before. Make sure you bring a laptop, because we're not sure that all the laptops are working this week. And then maybe Daniel, you and the other TAs maybe can just do quick turn to look at the lab to see if, do you mind, to see if any of those are issues, and then we can
Yeah, we
report,
can.
we can report back to Savannah. And then it's 2 formats. It's going to be multiple choice and then the 2 open-ended. And here's the exam review. And if you see the exam review here, these are the exam review of the articles, and a lot of times this helps in terms of the open-ended. What is cloud computing, machine learning, artificial intelligence, generative AI, 5 AI technologies, generative AI, about the language models, ERP, enterprise resource planning, AI caller, or the AI agent that we've talked about, agentic AI versus generative AI, and also from VAPI, it's nice to see the quick start 1. You can see what I've set up here is the multiple choice true false. Chapter 5 again. I've made chapter 5 and chapter 4, Sophia, repeat it again. I think from the last test, those were 2 important chapters. You see that, Sophia? Database, and database goes with what? Machine learning. It goes with what? With agentic AI, with generative AI, and the difficulties of managing data, data governance. So if you think about it, Sophia, data governance is what? Is that people in an organization have to take care of the data that's inputted to the system, take care of how to clean the data, take care to make sure what type of data are we putting into the system that we share, make sure that it's correct data, make sure that it is, when we're doing data governance, that there's not any inconsistency. You remember that? All of that data governance. And guess what, Sophia, if I think about data governance, I should extend it to AI governance as well. If we decide, the university decides to do a number of phone agents, AI agents, you want to make sure that the data is correct of what's being inputted to that data, right? You want to be able, if I have to try to find out, I want to find out what is the average GPA of my students. I want to make sure that their GPAs are correct. If I'm looking up your GPA, I want to make sure that it's correct, right? Then we talked about this exact same thing. So the data hierarchy, the smallest is a 0 or 1. A byte is just like a character. 8 bits make a byte. A field, if I think about it, Sophia, in a spreadsheet, and I had a student database, right? All my columns would be the fields, like first name, last name, C number. A record is what? In a database, that record is basically like the row. Each of my students is a separate record. And then I have a file, I have a table. And then we talked about the difference between a file system versus a database management system. You remember that in a regular file system, we're going to have redundant data because the School of Business is going to have your data, the housing's going to have your data, the health center is going to have your data. And what's the problem? There's going to be redundancy. If you moved, it could be inconsistency. You want to minimize, in this case, the idea of that redundancy. You'll do it in the database approaches. So you can put a note here, maximizing, remember even from the last question, Sophia, what should we maximize? What should we minimize in terms of that? Do you remember that, Sophia? Yes, no, I
I
can't.
do. Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Same kind of thing, the database, but why this is so important. Why is this so important for me in this database? It just lends itself straight through AI, because what is AI talking about? AI is talking about data as well, but I'm using AI in a different sense. So I'm going to be using it as primary versus secondary key. Remember, we talked about it. We talk about even in database, I have what? I have historical data that I have it in a data warehouse or in a data mart. I have a metadata that's talking about my data. It's not giving specifics about the data, but if I'm talking about calling, and you have a dashboard, I know when you made the call, I know how long the call was, I know who you called, but what, Sophia? I don't know the contents of the call. So metadata, you can put a note there, metadata describes my data versus regular data is the contents of my data. And then I have my API, my application program interface. Then security, the same idea of security. Again, know the difference between an exposure, threat, and vulnerability. I have unintentional threats that come about because somebody's basically using social engineering. I know that I want to mitigate my risk because there's always going to be risk. I have to decide whether I want to transfer that risk to another party or whether I say, it's worth it. I'm risking it. They'll take my PowerPoints. Remember, we talked about least privilege. Least privilege, in this case, Kendall, do I have least privilege and you have least privilege? Only you have least privilege, Kendall. Least privilege.
I can answer it.
Oh, are you asking me as a question?
Yeah,
I thought you were just
as a
saying that.
question.
Oh,
Least
sorry.
privilege. Do I have least privilege and you have least privilege, or just you?
I'm not sure. I think we both do.
Yes. I have least privilege. It's just that my role is different. They're not going to give me the privilege for me to see all your other test scores in your other classes, right? So I have least privilege based on what, Kendall? Based on my role. So everybody needs to, some of you were, when you were writing that in the last exam, you were getting confused thinking that Kendall, you had least privilege and I didn't, right? We all have least privilege based on our role. Do you understand that, Zach? So Zach, the whole idea here is based on the role. I don't want to give you data that's not going to be appropriate for your role. Do you think the president has least privilege? The president of the university has least privilege? You have to unmic yourself. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Yes. He basically, he is not allowed to change his salary. He can see everybody's salary probably because he's in the part, but he may not even be able to change people's salaries. They may have to go through a process. If I become buddy with the president, right, just because I'm buddy with him, he shouldn't have the right to just change. I heard that, Dr. Rush. 10 times more I deserve, right? It's the same thing. So strategies, the warm side, all of these kind of things that we were talking about last time, you've done that already and done the review. That's on chapter 4. The difference between HTTP versus HTTPS. S stands for secure. HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, is just text. Then we started on cloud computing. You remember we did cloud computing. What is cloud computing, right? That it's on demand and that basically it differs from on-premise. So they're computers that, how do I get to cloud computing? How do I get, if we decided to do anything in the cloud, how do I get to that? How do I get to my data from the cloud? I go through.
You go to Zoom and it's on there.
My what?
You go to Zoom and it's on recordings.
Right, but how do I get there? Through a browser, right? So if I ever asked you
Yeah.
ever, how do you get to the cloud? You know it. It's just so intuitive for you, right? If you don't have internet access, can you get to the cloud? No, that's why you
No.
right. So that's why those are problems. So if I think about the advantages and disadvantages, disadvantages, if I don't have internet access, I'm not able to go to the cloud. Remember a while back, Amazon was down, this server was down, Microsoft was down. For us, it was not a big deal. But if Zoom is their server is down, can we be online together? No. So these are the ideas we talked about: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Basically, you know all this. Infrastructure as a service, meaning that let's say we have Mac and I want to use Windows. I don't want to put Windows on my Mac machine. I can use in the cloud, I can run Windows applications that I could have as platform as a service. Infrastructure, I could then have more GPUs, more RAM. Remember we talked about that. I could have larger primary and secondary storage by using computers in the cloud. S, software as a service, we use it all the time. Kendall, you wake up in the morning and if you go to, you check your email, you check your Instagram, you check Blackboard, those are all what, Kendall? Software as a service. You know that, right, Kendall? Everything is, but you didn't know that it stands for SaaS. So when people are trying to sell you software as a service, you say, oh, I grew up with that. I don't even need to think twice. In order to get to the cloud, most of the cloud is public. So when you go to your Gmail, when you go to your OneDrive, when you, any area, you're doing a public cloud. Public cloud means, Kendall, what? That you still have a password. But what is it? You're sharing your data on a computer with other folks. And most of the time, I don't care who I'm sharing it with because I'm private, right? That I have my own priority. But sometimes if my data is so special, if I'm in, for instance, the CIA, or if it's going to be so private that I don't want my competitors to ever see it, that it's less hackable, I would put it in a private cloud. What does a private cloud mean then, Sophia? A private cloud means that I'm going to have computers that will be stored in another location, and I want my own computer. As an agency, we are so, a private cloud means what, Sophia? That we're going to have our own computers that the vendor, let's say Microsoft or Google or Amazon, will tell us, you know what? This is so special that this is going to be that we don't, we're the Defense Department or the War Department, whatever we are, we want to keep it private. And we're going to tell you where I want my computer to be. Do you understand? Now I have no idea, and you have no idea where Zoom is storing our information, right? We have no idea. And most of the time, I don't care. Do you care? I don't care. But for private, it may be, if we're a trading company, it's going to be very important that my private cloud, what does it really mean, my private cloud? That the computer that my instructions are on are going to be based a certain place. And what is sometimes they are a private cloud? I want it based right next to NASDAQ because that timing is going to be so important. You remember how we have it streaming live to Zoom of having that 30-second delay? Sophia, is what? It's not, I want it to be even shorter. I want blinking of an eye. That's how fast I want that. Hybrid, what do you think hybrid is? Sometimes we're doing hybrid too. There could be people that I have a hybrid class. Sometimes I meet you in the lab, sometimes I'm here. Sometimes the hybrid cloud is some of my things will be public, some of them will be private. That's what they call a hybrid cloud. And then we have chapter 4, we dealt with artificial intelligence, the subfields, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks. We talked about it. Supervised and unsupervised training. Remember, we talked about the bank fraud. You remember that, Sophia? We're talking about sometimes we want it supervised. We give the computer, we give it, we know what the inputs are, we know what the outputs are. We're going to train it and we're going to and unsupervised, let the machine go ahead and do all the training on its own. Generative AI, we talked about the idea with generative AI that's different from the past is that we think about a prompt and we get a response, and that response will be new context. So think about generative AI is putting in that response. You're familiar with it, things like ChatGPT and things, even the Notebook LM, we had the chat using Gemini. The Turing test was basically from a professor that wanted to be able, when AI was first going on, is basically, can a human distinguish between a computer or a human if they're answering a question? And natural language processing, that when we speak, it will process it and bring it into text and bring it in processing. We talked about last time of transaction processing online. We talked about functional area, enterprise ERP, ERP2. And the last chapter we're doing, that's due a week from today, is on chapter 4, which is a pretty short chapter, but deals with business analytics. When we have analytics, in this case, Stephen, we can think about, have you taken statistics yet, Stephen?
No, not yet.
Okay, so I'll tell you about statistics. When we talk about analytics, basically, we've all taken the test together, right, Stephen? So descriptive statistics basically is a way to describe what is present and summarizing what is my present data. You got that? So descriptive statistic would be the average of the class, let's say, was 80, right? The highest grade was 100. The lowest grade is 50. I'm just making this up, right? That's describing my data. You got that, Stephen? It's describing my data. Predictive, in this case, if I think about it, Bobby, predictive is that, let's say you got a 95, Bobby, on the first exam. Okay, these are all, I don't know offhand, I don't remember what you got, Bobby, but go with me. This is just a sample. We're not saying anything that it's truth here, but if you got a 95 in the first one, right, and you did, let's say, all your homeworks, and you got, hundreds on all your homeworks, what we could do with business analytics is predict what you would get on the second exam. So it's the past, the present, or the future, Bobby. Predictive.
It's like based on the past, you predict the future.
Yes. So predictive, and is it going to be 100% accurate? Of course not. And basically all of this AI and all of the generative AI is all done predictively. They're predicting what you're asking. Sometimes when you're typing, have you ever started typing and it starts filling in for you, Bobby, what you want to say? Have you ever seen that, Bobby?
Yeah, I had that.
It's predictive, right? It doesn't read your mind, but it's predictive. And prescriptive means, now what are you going to do based on that? If we had, Bobby, a student that didn't do so well, and the model predicted that they're going to get a 60 on the next exam, prescriptive is, what can we do to improve their score? Or what should we do? Same thing with trading. I can tell you how I can describe how a stock was. I can predict that I think it's going to go up, but it's basically, when it goes down, basically prescriptive is, what else can I buy? Business intelligence, structure versus unstructured. Data mining is basically finding, why do they call it data mining? It's like gold mining, right? You find the nuggets of gold. Here you find the nuggets of insightful data for you. What if analysis, dashboards, we see dashboards all the time. Even in Wiley Plus, I had a dashboard telling me who did the best, who hasn't finished, right? Key performance, geographic information systems. And then you have here sample open-ended questions that you have here. Compare the traditional file system approach, right, which is my data is stored in silos, to the data management system approach for managing it, and then basically identify two major problems with that file system. An approach that a DBS helps to solve. Finally, define the data hierarchy and explain the purpose of primary key. What I like about this question as well, Zach, number one, is it helps you with the other information from chapter 4. You understand that? So it's almost goes in, once I know how to answer this, then one, it's going to help me with file systems, with the data hierarchy, with primary keys in case I have those questions. The next one is define 3 major types of information security controls, whether I'm going to be talking about the physical, the administrative, the communication one. And for each one, provide a specific example. Why is this good? It's also, I'm going to have it for my security chapter. I'm going to have to talk about information security controls. What is cloud computing? Explain the 4 benefits. Explain 4 benefits, give 3 business usage examples, name 2 disadvantages. We talked about already, Carissa, right? We talked about already a disadvantage is cloud computing, that if I don't have internet access, right, Carissa, I can't use it. How is cloud computing used in assignments and projects? You used it all the time, right, Carissa? There wasn't a time where you submitted anything that it wasn't through the cloud. Right?
Right,
So
like everything was like recorded through Zoom on the cloud and submitted that way.
and everything in Blackboard, right? When you had to
Yeah.
submit with Blackboard, Blackboard is a cloud computing. When you had to save your thing, right? Everything that you saved. When you basically did even your phone VAPI, right? How did you get to VAPI, Carissa? You did
I
through your
Yeah.
browser, right? So everything that we've done has been in cloud computing. The only thing when we recorded in Zoom, we did it. The only thing is sometimes I said, try to find something like a QuickTime or something that you can record and that you can have it on your own computer. When an application is stored on your own computer, then basically you can use it. But go through every assignment and every project, it's all been done through the cloud. Then here is the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, a software as a service, and give a real world example. Here is an example of what is generative AI. How does its purpose and offer and output differ from traditional machine learning models and agentic AI agents? Discuss at least 3 distinct limitations or concerns, and explain how generative AI was used in your project. You use generative AI all the time. As soon as you did Wix, right, there was generative AI. Give at least 2 examples. What is an AI agent? Explain its fundamental operational cycle. What are the benefits and the risk? What are subfields of AI? And the last one, which we did, you remember, Stephen, did you do the VAPI AI caller?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so what is it? What are the 3 key features of the AI caller system? So basically, Jess, you can put this in your notes. Also, Stephen, an AI caller is like an AI agent. What's the difference between generative AI and an AI agent is this. AI agent, you prompt it and you get a response, right, Carissa? You've used ChatGPT and others, right? You give it a prompt and it gives you a response. An AI agent, you can think about it, is the doer. It's going to do something for you. So if you think about it, Stephen, what did AI do? AI was doing the caller for you. AI caller was able to receive the calls, make the calls. How do they work? What are the benefits and disadvantages of using the AI callers? And list at least 4 benefits and 2 disadvantages. So Sophia, what do you think? Does this make sense?
Yes.
So this is going to be just like the first exam. I don't want to get people to be over anxious because you're going to say to yourself, I have no idea what she's going to ask me in open-ended questions. You have a good idea, right, Sophia?
Yes.
Yeah, you have a great idea. That's why I like it. Because if I don't give you those open-ended questions, the world is, and I say it's closed book. How are you going to even respond? It's impossible. You agree with me, Carissa? It's just way too much, right? That's why that's what the beauty of AI is, right? But I want you to understand the concepts of it, that you can make what? Intelligent conditions. So if you go to, you can see here, this was on exam 2. I go to my what's due. You can see here my what's due November 17th in person is in the SBA, right? And here's my review guides, my PowerPoints, my documents under exam review guide. And if you look at this article, for instance, everybody see this of the Analytics 5. Let me open a new tab. What I like about this is the 5 AI technologies that you need to know, from machine learning to agentic AI. These are fueling the AI craze. So you can think artificial intelligence is the first, and you could click on it to learn more. Machine learning, we talked about in the class, that basically we're going to have supervised or unsupervised. Generative AI, natural language processing, and AI agents. So if I go, for instance, to the generative AI, I can think about it. It's traditionally, remember what we're talking about, AI, machine learning, recognizing patterns in the data to make predictions. It's what, Stephen, the future, just like almost we talk about all those analytics for that last chapter we need to do, is it recognize pattern in the data for what? It's trying to make predictions there. But generative AI goes beyond predicting. It generates new data, right? Just like if we've done with the ChatGPT. Imagine receiving a full text for speech in just seconds, given a chatbot like ChatGPT. We can know that it can generate music, it can generate art, but what does it take? It takes from actual artists. It takes, and that's what people are upset about. If I'm a musician, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, where did it come up with making those concepts new, right, Stephen? They're taking it from me, but they're not giving me any royalty. That's what the New York Times was complaining and trying to sue OpenAI. A lot of artists, a lot of actors, they're taking my own proprietary work, and they're not, it's basically like plagiarism, but they're using it. So here it's conversations, real world, generative AI. If you want to, you can think about it. You can listen to this, expect it to reshape. We know this using what? Our large language models, all our LLMs here, synthetic data generation that we can do. And then the evolution, we were talking about it before. Eliza here, generative again, generative in today's world. We talked about it. Who's using the generative AI with, I want examples, banking, insurance, life sciences, and all. So this is really, these articles that I have, these all submitted in my study guide that you can review. You can put them in. Guess what, Stephen? You can put them into an AI and they can summarize, and you can ask them questions. Put in the questions. I don't have to teach you that. That's the beauty. I don't care how you prepare. I even encourage you to use AI to prepare, because there's so much information that you can do. But I want you to prepare. There shouldn't be people that I get their answers and I have no idea what to write. Right? That it's basically you can see it. And then what I have as well here, which is interesting, is I also have under web links, and you can see under those thing, remember the difference between agentic AI versus generative AI? What's the differences? And then what I was thinking about, Sophie, remember I talked about AI governance? Here it's on AI agent governance, is just like I do for data governance. Somebody has to, let me just open this in a new tab. Someone has to say, what is in my, this is the scary part. I have AI agents doing work for me, doing work for the university, doing work for my bank, doing work for my hedge fund. I have an urgency to make sure that not only is it correct, but what kind of ethical standards, what kind of legal standards. A lot of times the banks and financial institutions are wary about using these AI agents because they are going to be responsible. Just like I'm responsible for the fraud done in my company, I should be responsible to make sure these are correct, of these AI agents, because they're going to be making recommendations. They're going to be collaborating. But what I want is that I did, just like I said, governance. This is the statement we've used about data. I have to be responsible. What data is my organization? I have to be responsible. You as humans are going to be responsible for AI agents. So they have to act with ethical, legal standards. They have to be explainable. How did they come up with that? How did they come up with that recommendation that I'm supposed to be buying that stock? Are they just trolling? Are they just trolling me? They have to be controlled. If you're accounting majors or finance, they have to be audited. There's going to be a whole new position of auditing AI agents. If you think you're in accounting, a lot of the accounting work will already be done by an AI agent. What you have to do is you have to audit it, just like you audit other people's books. You have to audit what it's saying. And the risk is bias, is discrimination, financial and legal risk, misinterpretation. We can get a lot, the crooks can do really well with AI. You don't think that their work is being done. And the pillars, look at this. This is where I think the human will be. Human oversight. That hopefully that companies will be aware that it's a complete exaggeration that all jobs will be taken away, but there has to be human oversight. And we have to do safeguards. Anytime you have those guardrails, the human in the loop oversight. And this, Daniel, I didn't show you last time, but this is pretty interesting. This is what I just found last week. Did you see this, Carissa? Look at this title. The boss has a message. Use AI or you're fired. At companies big and small, employees have feared they're being replaced by AI. The new threat, being replaced by someone who knows AI. So this is interesting for you to get in touch with this. And this was from the Wall Street Journal. Basically, Accenture, Daniel, have you heard of Accenture?
I have not, no. Accenture
is one of the largest consulting firms, going out and giving businesses consulting. So they have 700, Daniel, they have 779,000 employees throughout the world. And basically their CEO said this: Accenture is exiting employees who aren't getting the hang of using AI at work. So they're testing your people. If you don't want to use AI, if you don't know how to use AI, Carissa, out the door. And why? Because they're supposed to also be training and helping all these large companies how to use AI. And if they don't have a workforce that feels comfortable, like second nature with AI, they're saying that bye-bye. So it's just interesting. On Amazon, you heard about all those layoffs. Some of those layoffs, they hired too many, so there's an excuse. But now it basically is you have to even come up with, we'll train you with AI, Stephen, but you have to come up with how can this be applied in your workforce. Just like this, just like the same idea. You need to study for an exam, figure out how AI can help you. Right, Stephen? It's almost like the same thing. If I'm a company, help me deal with all these emails, help me deal with all the busy work my employees are doing. So you have to work with AI. It's pretty amazing how this was put up there. And share of you who don't use AI tools, when asked to select the main reasons why, you don't have that priority. So that's why when they say those beginning jobs will be cut out, because a lot of times what they gave to beginning jobs were basically kind of rote, kind of automated jobs. So what I'm telling you guys is if you can come in and say, hey, look what I can do with AI. Do you understand that, Sophia? What my presence of getting you starting to get prepared and getting at ease with this. Now doing the Notebook LM, they're doing a lot of things that they keep on adding new things to it. Soon they'll be adding videos, right? If you're comfortable with it, putting all the sources, you can have it for the whole company. You say, hey, listen, you need to be training on a number of different topics. You can tell all the employees when they come to work, take your headphones and listen, whether they're driving or they're on the train or walking. So here it's finding out how it's pretty long. AI will, not just skill. And what they're saying here is now they're giving rewards to people that are able, giving them bonuses if they can find something in the organization where the organization can improve using AI. So I just found that Daniel, this weekend, I just saw that. It's interesting, right? And just how a lot of those consulting firms, they're the biggest beef among their customers, their clients, which were large ways. And they said, you know, my son or daughter can do more than you guys can do. You're coming in hearing, and I don't want to hear stories. I want people to help me have those agents do something and also check and audit what they're doing. So those are areas to do. Questions? Okay. So Sophia, you had any questions that you think others, even if they didn't put in the chat, that they would have, or that you, any ideas? Summarize what we just went over, or questions that you have.
No, I don't have any questions. I think it's pretty clear.
Okay.
In general, well, like you
Yeah.
said, AI is really important, and I think that knowing it to keep a job, especially since nowadays, like in businesses, they use so much AI. If you don't know how to use it, you won't be able to even, be a part of the company because you won't be engaged
Yeah.
in what the company does, regardless of what the company is.
Yeah, but it's the opposite, that I think, in the way of you coming in and even with your project showing, hey, look what I have already done. That's why I
No,
have
yes.
about that project is look what I've already done, because everybody can say, oh, I know how to use ChatGPT. There isn't probably now anybody, right, from the youngest to the oldest, right, to grandma
sure.
and great grandma that hasn't used ChatGPT. But what do I do with it? And how
But
do
even
I,
so,
what?
even so,
Yeah.
someone can come in and say that they know how to use AI, but
Right.
knowing how to apply it and knowing
Applying it. And what I want you
where
to,
to use it, it's
yeah,
important.
but what I want you to do, and this is for everybody's project before you turn it in, could do on Wednesday, is the AI really gives the first pass in giving you the first draft. Do you understand that, Sophia?
Yes.
But it's not good enough. So what you can do even is take that description of what AI gave you, and you can even put it back to ChatGPT or put it back to Notebook LM, put it back to Gemini, and start redefining it and telling it who is the audience. What do you want to do? Tell me about what is the problem I want to solve. How am I going to solve that solution? What tools do I have? Do you understand? Because when we read through it, it's written grammatically correct. And a lot of times I like it's a common term, but I like that Daniel used to always say AI slop in the way that their words, you know that AI generated it, but it's not enough detail. It doesn't tell me your website, your description, your company. It doesn't tell me what problem, I'm a business, what problem are you trying to solve for me? Do you understand that, Sophia? So each of you, I can tell you 100% is if you read through it, it's not going to be in depth enough, distinct enough, telling me what is the problems you are trying to solve for me and how are you going to solve those problems. So I would take that data they have, and then that's the part where you can excel even in the generative AI part, is describing who is the audience for, what level do you want to describe it, and keep on asking it more questions and to define it better for you. And then you can use your own mind and you using your own intelligence, see what is missing here. Do you understand that, Sophia? So I want that as a requirement, that it shouldn't be, it's nice that, all these AI can generate a website quickly. But what we want is we want to have an in-depth that somebody just said, oh, they did that and probably in 4 minutes they could do that and it can come up with some AI slop. I want it to be, hey, I want to use your services, Sophia, and I know what you're going to be able to give me. And you say, these are just a sample of my services. So that's what's important. So if I looked at it before, let me just share. So if I go back to my PowerPoints, that I should be able for my business analytics part is basically giving examples, and this is what you'll need for the test, is giving an example of what is descriptive analytics, what is predictive analytics, and what is prescriptive analytics. And if I look at what traditionally, let me just do this in my slideshow. My current slide, if I look at my decision process, something like this now, an AI agent, you can program an AI agent to do. But one of the things that I want you to do is for your website even to be able, what is the problem and how are you going to solve it? And that has been many times needed for when we have structured problems, semi-structured problems, and unstructured decisions. Many times what AI can do well is the structured and semi-structured. The unstructured decision for creativity or the unstructured decisions, I have some videos here. It's going to be difficult for them to tell me what the gist of the videos are that you can see basically for the decision support framework. And let me just, and in this case for business analytics, this is the most important screen that you need to look at. You have a business problem here. Everybody see on my left-hand side, there's a business problem. And then what do I have to do is I have to do data management. And data management means, ETL means extraction, transformation, that I'm being and loading the data. So the first thing, if I have a data warehouse, again, this is about data. If I have data that I have to then put into my LLM, any of the things that I have here, if it's external, internal, big databases, I have to clean the data. And you can see here, I have that data warehouse. That data warehouse is what, Stephen? Historical. And then what I want to do is in my analytics, I have two questions. In description, what has happened? What were your tests, Stephen? In the what? In this case, what has happened? You can do online analytical processing. I can do it in basically in pivot tables. I can do data mining. Tell me in the past of my past, because this is historical, what happened? Predictive is what could happen. How could you do? What would you do? What will the stock price do? What will prices be? And here I use statistical procedures to forecast. Another word for predictive, Stephen, you can put in your notes, is forecasting. You're thinking about it all the time. Predicting, forecasting using these statistical options. What could happen and the way in which they want humans to be involved. A lot of this can be with even AI, with other automating systems, is what should we do? Because in the end, if Stephen, let's say you're the CEO, in the end, you want to figure out, I have these options, it's telling me. I know it's not 100% correct. What should we do? And then I want a prescriptive analytics on it. And here, AI will help me as well, but I need a human involved in this practice. And then based on what we should do, then I'm going to have some recommended actions. And guess where the human's going to be, Stephen? You're going to have to defend what's in the report. And you say, I don't know, just the AI did it. I have no clue. Then what do I need you, Stephen? Right? It's the idea that you're going to say, you can say to the board of directors, this is why I think we should be going through this path. I'm defending it. And I have all the presentations. I have the dashboards, right? I have all my neural nets, my machine learning, my deep learning, my generative AI. My agents can help me in doing the process. But by and large, this is it. Now ask the next question. It can help me. What's going to be the next question? But I have to defend it. And so this is basically just some descriptive statistics of what you can use, right? What if analysis? What if this happens? What's going to happen next? Here's my goal. Predictive analytics, right, for forecasting, weather's always it, right? Social good. Everybody has predictive. If I need, that's what they pay you big bucks for. If everybody knew what's going to happen, then I don't have to pay you big bucks. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, or the next day, or the next month. But what am I going to do? I'm being educated on it, and I'm just not throwing the dice. So these are the areas in which you need to know. That's chapter 12. And just in a way, what you can do then is have tools to present it, right? That all the time. And what's nice about presenting those tools, the beauty is this is where AI can really do a nice job in terms of the presentation. Save me a lot of time. Save you a lot of time. Questions? Comments? So, Sophia, so you understand where I want on Wednesday is your project due, but go through it, even of other people's work, and then as a group, then take it back, those words, and put it in again. I'm not even asking you that you should rewrite it, but put it in and asking more questions. And that's what sophisticated prompting is. And those are part of the tools that everybody can put in a word, but if you can keep on prompting it and say, okay, who's my audience? What are my issues that I'm going to have to say? And the more that you can frame it, then you're going to get better results. Okay, Daniel, any comments, points you want to emphasize?
I don't know if anyone here has used the agentic feature within ChatGPT where it can kind of look up things online and focus on those tasks. It is certainly in the new stage of development.
Beginning.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's pretty good. I mean, I have to say it's really good, but
And it'll
there's
get
a
better,
lot of
right.
yeah, it will get better. Of course it'll get better. Everything gets better, but it's pretty cool. I have to say that it can actually browse the internet, and that's definitely part of what the future holds.
Yeah, but
So
it'll be doing rather than just that prompt and respond. Now do, and then you'll have a number of agents together, right? And it'll be orchestrated, and then agents will then supervise other agents, and there'll be new job opportunities. You see that, Sophia? There'll be parts where you're going to have to audit. First of all, decide what should be automated in a company. What is kind of like what I say, the low-hanging fruit. And that's what our issues on companies, because they don't want to, they're not going to say, oh, everybody's fired and we're just going to do 100% AI. It's not possible. I still need the human to figure out what among these processes should even be used with AI, and then working with it and improving it. And then also what, Sophia, keeping up with it. From Daniel can attest, from when did you take the course? A year ago?
2 years ago now.
Right. So how much has changed even using the same software?
So much. I mean, when I started, like ChatGPT was just able to use a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And it was not good at it. And now obviously it can make a whole spreadsheet and it's really good at it. So I mean, I'm sure everyone here has experiences with that, but I mean, Grok had just come out and Claude was not good. Like all these things. It's improved so much.
Talking about what happened 20 years ago. It was.
I know. It's very rapid.
Right. There's never been, and I've been in the industry so long, and I can attest that it's never been this quick. You know, it's changed a bit, especially with the internet coming about, but the change is so fast, which is what is difficult for companies, is to adapt, and even the skill set. What I'm going to teach my employees, what am I going to teach my students? I just heard somebody said, oh, maybe what we should teach is not coding, but we should teach soft skills now. You know, we should teach how empathy or something like that, or we should be teaching, ways in which we can converse with one another. There's something else somebody was saying when I talked to my chatbot I have to now learn how to talk to humans because in the chatbot, they agree with everything I say. It's simple, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the chatbot to tell you the opposite, sometimes it'll kind of give you some perspective. But certainly all of the chatbots want your time, so they make it very easy for you to be in agreement
Right,
with the
they
output.
want to please you all the time, but it's also
Yeah.
the thing about I can also just give it commands all day long. It's like
Yeah.
it could be like a one way of everything I want. I never think about chatbot. Let me think about what you want in terms of relationships, right? That I have to listen to somebody. Okay, you want to take Isa?
Yeah, I can do.
Either you or Daniel can take the
I
role.
got it.
Okay, perfect. And then we really don't need, but we can see it anyways. We got but stay with me if you have additional questions. Otherwise, we'll do more on Wednesday. I'll give you feedback on your projects and I'll go over some more review. Go over, Sophia, and with the others, go over the study guide and let me know what you want me to explain. Right? What's not clear here? Even though it sometimes is, right? So I appreciate you and Cam taking over the part. Okay, Ryan.
Hi. So I had emailed you, I believe
Okay,
yesterday.
well, let's Ryan,
about-
let's just hold on. Let me just stop everything. Okay, I got yours. We need to deal with that.
Okay.
Ryan. You remember need to know, Ryan?
Yes.